Welcome back to FM Jeeping. My name is Mark, and today we are going to be replacing this broken glass with something a little bit more durable. So if you've wheeled an XJ for any length of time, you know that the hatch is kind of a big target on the XJ. You know, the wiper sticks out a little bit. If you punch this wiper at all against a tree, you shatter the glass. I've done that 3 times. So I'm getting tired of swapping hatches. I'm getting tired of cleaning up glass. So what I'm going to do is replace the factory glass with Lexan. Now Lexan in the size that I need to replace this glass is going to be about the same as if I were to replace this with factory glass. However, the difference between obviously Lexan and glass breaks, Lexan won't. You know, Lexan is put in places where, you know, durability is used or needed. They use Lexan on race car windshields and things like that. So if it's good for race car, if it's good for NASCAR, I think it should be okay for wheeling, especially since it's not my windshield. I just want something that'll flex if I kind of put it into a tree. So with that being said, I've got to get the factory, what's left of it, glass out and get this seal out so I can start working on cutting a template for the new Lexan. Because the rear windshield is broken, I'm going to end up putting more glass in the rig on the floor as I take the trim out. So what I'm going to do to minimize that is I'm going to throw some tape over the bigger, larger pieces so I can try to remove them without tape falling all over the place. All right, so this is not a perfect science. I went ahead and taped on both sides. I want to catch as much as I can, but I am going to lose some. That's a given, especially because it's glass. Next thing too is definitely make sure you wear gloves at all times. All right, get some glasses because you definitely don't want glass in your eye. The sharpest knife you got. And I'm going to use this little trim puller here. And what you're going to want to do is, if you can see, is get your knife in between the door, the hatch, and the trim ring. You can see I've already started cutting away a little bit. And what you're going to basically do is just saw all the way around, and down. So now with the glass gone, I don't have to worry about cutting myself every time I reach through here. The reason I have to reach through is because my hatch won't open. We're going to come up with a fix for that in a second. But while I'm here, I'm going to get rid of the kind of cause of this whole problem, which is this windshield wiper. So when I backed up and I slid down that hill, a tree hit right here, pushing this in and basically destroying the glass. So you can see this break here, this here, didn't even touch the bumper. Go figure. I got a 1/2-inch wrench. And this is no more. Hit it a couple times. Come on. There we go. and that's where it goes. All right, with the glass out of the way, the wiper out of the way, now I can focus on trying to get this hatch open. Now these hatches, 97 and up, tend to have a problem even normally because the mechanism behind here kind of wears or gets out of adjustment or just ends up breaking. When you hit the hatch, it obviously sends it out of adjustment. So what you want to do is take the trim, if you can see that, push this forward and get a light, look down there between, it's kind of hard to see, I'm sorry if I'm making you guys sick, down inside the door there's a little cutout here, then there's a rod coming up straight up this way, and then you basically have to pull on that and it'll release the hatch. So let's go fishing. There it is right there. Easy peasy. So if you've never shattered a glass window inside a vehicle, I'm going to tell you this right now. You will go years and years and years, you will clean that thing forever. You'll always find glass. This is from, I still find glass from my first hatch, but this is everything. So I'm going to clean this out real quick. Once again, you can vacuum this thing all you want. You will find glass everywhere for years. I still have to go in the front of this rig and take out all this stuff here because there's a ton of glass still behind it. But for now, I'll leave it. So now I'm doing a little sidebar here, but I want to go ahead and remove the windshield wiper motor for two reasons. One, I want to plug it up from the inside out or outside in, whatever. And I also want to remove it because it's going to give me better access to the latch. And with the Lexan, I'm not going to really want a windshield wiper dragging across it, scratching it. I very seldomly used it anyway. So it's two 10mm bolts, just like this. And then it's this nut right here. So it's been a little bit. Now I'm back on making a window for the XJ. Went out, got some roughly 3/16 thick Lexan. This is a 4x8 sheet, as well as some cardboard big enough to do the rear windshield. But before I can do anything, I got to get back to the seal. Now this is remnants of the seal that was holding in the actual glass. I wasn't able to cut that all out when I was taking all the broken glass out. I was more focusing on getting the glass out of the vehicle so that way I can work without getting cut and spreading more glass all over my shop. So what I'll do is I'm going to go get a nice fresh razor blade, go back through here and cut away as much as I can. Then I got to figure out how to get rid of the remnants. I went around, cut out all the big chunks, the real thick stuff. Now I want to go back through. I'm probably going to use a wire wheel, like a medium wire wheel, and lightly just go through and try to rip off all the sealant, so that way the Lexan can sit flush, and we'll go from there. So now I got pretty much most of the rubber all out of the way. During that little segment, you might have seen that I stepped up to a bigger grinder. That one had a more coarse wheel on it, and I could also put pressure on it. It was cupped, and I could put more pressure on it and ride the inside of this ridge to get most of that rubber out. There was a trade-off to that, which is that I hit raw metal in a couple places. So what I'm going to do prior to the window being installed for the last time is I'm going to go ahead and paint all of this black, and then I'm also going to bed line up to this ridge just so it looks better. I did find some rust unbeknownst to me, but not a big deal. I'm going to go ahead and rust convert this and then paint over it. But with it being chilly and wet right now, it's going to be hard to get the paint to cure in a reasonable amount of time. So I'm going to forge forward, get the template cut for the window, and then before I final install the window, I'll get the garage up to temp and dry and do all the painting then. Something I wanted to touch back on that I did earlier on is when I did the outline for the template, I used the outer part here. Now if you look, there's a taper here that kind of houses the glass. I did not account for that. I did that on purpose because I wanted to take the template, make it bigger, and then trim it down to a rough size that's going to be pretty close. Once again, oversized, so then that way when I transfer to the Lexan, I can then shape it how I want with a DA sand or sanding block or something. I'm gonna go ahead and lay this on the Lexan and start planning my cut. I've got my Lexan kind of propped up on some sawhorses for now. I'm gonna go ahead and tape around the outline like a nice wide strip and trace it out so I can use a jigsaw and not mar up the Lexan. Now, the thing with that I've been reading, I've cut Lexan before, smaller pieces, so I didn't really have to worry, but on the bigger pieces, I'm going to go slow, and kind of do it in little bits and pieces, just so I don't overheat the Lexan and kind of melt it, because it is plastic. But let's go ahead and trace this out, start cutting. With the Lexan all cut out, I'm going to go ahead, take a block, some sanding paper. What I'm going to do is kind of get all, level it out, get rid of all the high and low spots and try to make it a little bit more seamless. Now, it's not going to be perfect, but I want to get it so at least visually it looks pretty straight. All right, so I was doing it by hand, and it's taking far too long. Now, I would use my my belt sander, my bigger one, but I blew out the belt. So I'm going to use this belt sander in a vise and literally just smooth out the edges, take out any high spots, and basically sand, test fit, sand, test fit, till I get the fit that I want. Okay, so I'm still going to continue shaping. The bottom lip I'm pretty happy with. I got to get it centered. This corner over here I'm pretty happy with as well. This side, there's a tight spot up right in front of you there, up here. You can see right there. I want to fix, and then I want to get on a stool and check the clearance up on top there. The top is close, but not as good as I want. So, continue to keep shaping. All right, so now all the sanding is finally done. I'm pretty happy with the gap that I have all the way around the edge. I'm going to go ahead and put some fresh tape along the edges, and I'm going to start plotting where I'm going to put my bolt holes. So what I've done is I've plotted 3 holes on every edge. And what I'm going to do is draw a straight line across, so that way the holes are linear and in a straight line. I'm going to drill the holes through the Lexan first, and then use that to transfer to my inner ridge here, so I can drill a hole in here. Now, to attach the Lexan to my hatch, I'm going to use nut certs. They work good with sheet metal. I can remove the window in the summertime if I want, and the bolts will look kind of cool. I got these, I think they're called sidewalk bolts coming. You'll see that in a minute or two. They should be here tomorrow. So originally what I was going to do was seal the window up so I didn't have to take it out again. However, I'm having a slight change of heart. Now, the last time I broke this window, I drove around with it pretty much not there. And to be honest, thinking back, I kind of liked having the airflow through the rig and kind of being able to, I actually had slight better vision out the back window. So I think in, good weather, I might want to be able to take off the window. So I'm not going to go and seal it. If you're in an area where it's a lot of mud, you're going to drive this in the winter, you want that sealed window, you can go ahead and get, I think 3M sells this. It's a windshield seal. It's a rope seal. It's custom. You could do whatever you want. You can make it as long as you want, as thin as you want, as thick as you want, whatever. You roll it out, and then you could slap this window in, bolt it down, and it should seal pretty well. You probably shouldn't have any real leaks. However, like I said, I'm going to change my approach. I was going to go that direction, but I want the window to be removable when it's nice weather. I also kind of need a rear window because I have jackasses on the trail, you know who you are, who likes to throw mud through a back open window. So when I go on the trail rides with those special people, I need to have a rear window so I'm not wearing mud in my hair. All right, so you can faintly see my pencil line. I didn't want to push too hard. And all the big dots is where I'm going to place my holes. So I'm just going to center on the line my holes. That should be good. So I went and put 2 bolts in, and I ran into a problem. Now, once again, hindsight always being 20/20. I probably should have pulled the tape off the entire window before I marked the bolts and before I drilled. Now if you can see now through the glass, because that's what it's for. This is the top of the hatch where we mount. This is the bottom. This is where my bolt is. I'm about a third of the way down. I would have liked to have been right about halfway, and I would have been able to use Rivnuts and make it so I only needed one wrench to take the bolt out. Now I'm going to have to default to using nuts and bolts and having to use 2 wrenches. Not the end of the world. It'll still look fine nonetheless, but that led me into the next problem. The window, this plane here is slightly contoured, not the biggest deal in the world. However, I did run into some, I'm hitting right in this area, and I'm hitting a little bit in this area. So I'm gonna go ahead, pull the window off, and just slightly taper this so I can get a better seal or a better seat. And then I'm gonna continue to drill because I've already drilled, I've already committed. So I'm just gonna run with it. So now I went back, got the fitment where I want, figured out where I want to put the bolts. I'm going to go ahead and chamfer the edges just to kind of round them off a little bit to make it more glass-like. Really, it's just an aesthetic thing. You don't need to do this part. I just want it to kind of blend in a little bit better. So I'm just taking a block, just knocking the edge off, and then probably finish drilling the holes in the hatch and temporarily put some bolts through it just to kind of hold it off until my finished bolts arrive in the mill. Go ahead and kind of final bolt this thing or set up the Rivnuts. Now I originally was going to use Rivnuts, then I decided against it. Now I'm back on using these in a couple different places. These 2 lower corners here, if you look on the other side, the holes don't come through because of the taper on this. Let's get these Rivnuts in. So off camera, I went and touched up the bed liner around the edge, so that way it wasn't black red and then red again. I painted the inner lip with black paint, and then I did bed liner here. So what I'm going to do now is just something aesthetic for my taste. I'm going to put the window back in, and I'm going to trace on the inside this inner edge here, and I'm going to paint the Lexan black. Now this isn't needed, but to me, it's just going to make it look a little bit more factory. Alright, so what I've done is I've traced the inner part that's going to ride in here. I'm going to scuff this up with a Scotch-Brite pad, and I'm going to spray it. I'm going to spray it black. That way it kind of gives a little bit more factory look. At least that's the hope. And then I can be done. So excuse the fan noise, I had to put it on because the paint has a really bad smell to it. The paint I used was bumper paint. It was this stuff over, what do I do with it? Right here. Duplicolor bumper coating. I like it because it's not a solid black. It kind of has like a translucent color to it. It's kind of hard to see. You can kind of see through it a little bit. But that's exactly what I'm looking for. So I did 3 coats. I'm gonna let that dry, and when it's dry, put everything in. So here it is in all its finished glory. I really like how the sidewalk bolts made the window pop, as well as the painted outer edge. It gives it kind of a factory look, minus the defrost lines. What you can see here is some microscopic scratches. That happened after the fact. What had happened was I was in the shop, created a bunch of dust, and I went to clean this off to shoot this, and I put a bunch of these little dots on. One thing I probably should have done beforehand, before I created all the dust, was coat this with some type of a wax or a carnauba or some type of a protectant. I just didn't get a chance to, and ultimately I got some microscopic scratches, but it is what it is. I knew I was going to get them eventually, but you know, live and learn. So I hope you guys got something out of that. I know I did. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, leave those down below, and we'll catch you on the next one.